So last month I was in Peru and I spent 2 weeks sitting with plant medicine, ayahuasca and San Pedro, Wachuma. And in my first ceremony with Mother Ayahuasca, if you're not familiar with ayahuasca, ayahuasca is a plant medicine. It is a combination of two different vines that really allow you to access your subconscious and to see patterns in your life, to go deep into your inner child and also see from a broad level the nature of reality and actually have a conversation with this very wise and ancient consciousness that really works with our own energy to shed light on the blind spots in our lives. And for me, one of the first and biggest lessons that she taught me was to be my natural self. So in my journey, I was never really someone who wore makeup. I was never really someone who was like super into fashion or anything like that. But I always loved beauty. I always appreciated it, but it was never my thing. I definitely wasn't that person in high school and college. I was way more of an academic child. However, later in life, but especially after my divorce, when you go through a heartbreak, you feel like shit, right? Like you feel like shit, you're crying, you're grieving, anger, all of the things. And so I started after that, I'm like, I feel like shit. So I'm going to at least try to look cute because looking cute at least makes me feel better. So I started to put more energy into the outfits I was wearing and, doing my hair and doing my makeup. And I started doing this podcast in person. I've been doing this podcast for almost 8 years now. And I started to do them in person. So there was lights and cameras. So I felt the next logical step was to start to get my makeup done, because the cameras are really bright and, your face is really on screen and you're investing in this. So, if you look at TV show hosts and things like that, they are wearing a lot of makeup. So I started to get my makeup done, every single week, and it just became normal and I loved it. And on the podcast, you have seen me serve many cute looks, a mermaid glam. We have gone 2000s bubblegum pink. We have done shadow looks. We have done red vivacious, purple futuristic. I have had a lot of fun experimenting with different hair, different makeup, different outfits, and really channeling my inner glam goddess. And it has been so much fun. And we are always on a cycle, and there's always further initiations of growth. And what the medicine really showed me was then, a year and a half later, I have gotten so now used to that I almost forgot who I was and how to show myself without that. And more than that, it was this fear of if I'm not wearing makeup, then I'm not going to look as pretty and people aren't going to want to listen. So I need to keep showing up and I need to keep looking amazing and serving all the looks because that's people want that. I got to give the people what they want. So it sort of became this self-fulfilling prophecy. And, I actually still don't wear makeup in my day-to-day life, but definitely on camera. Another thing that I will admit that I was doing was when I would do Instagram stories, put on those freaking filters. Those filters. Have you used them? I'm sure you have if you're a girl. And it was showing me how when we were using these filters, we're literally putting an AI fake version of ourselves out into people's consciousnesses and making people think we look this way that we don't even look. And it's putting just this fakeness out into the world where we don't even know what reality is. And how are we going to have relationships if we aren't in reality? We're going to have fakeationships because we're in fakeality. So the ayahuasca really propositioned me. She said, do a podcast episode with no makeup on. I was like, seriously, can I at least put on some mascara? Mascara doesn't even count. She was like, just no makeup. And I was like, blush. She's like, no makeup. Just try it and see what happens. So here I am, zero makeup, zero blush, zero mascara. And let's see what happens. I'm curious, is this helpful for you? Is this healing for you? Regardless of for you, I know for me, even just showing up this way of just barefaced is really bearing my soul. And I feel subconsciously the reason why we also wear makeup is to a level we're hiding. To a level we feel like we have to put on this persona, this, pretty mask. So people like us. So we're approachable. So they want to be around us. So girls want to be friends with us and guys want to date us and the guy we're with will never leave us. Isn't it so fun in Barbie world? Oh, but one thing's missing. It's all fake. Weird, right? But don't we look cute in it? Oh, you don't actually want to get to know me? Oh, you don't actually connect to my soul? You don't actually really? Oh, well, it's fine, because can we take a picture? And I feel like that's how our society has gotten. Like, no shade at all. I'm just speaking as it comes up, but like we've all seen people who you just met them and they're like, let's take a picture. And they're like posing like your best friends and posting the picture up. And it's like, you guys don't even know each other. And it's, again, trying to show people, oh, I have really great friendships, when you don't, when it's time to call someone when you're really in need and you don't even know who to call. And I see this happen, and I see it actually really breaks my heart. I see a lot of people who don't know me reach out to me when they are in really dark times. And I know I put out content and it allows people to develop a trust, but we got to have relationships in our lives for these things. We can't go to strangers with them because I don't know your life and no one else knows your life. And I feel that even in our friendships, we have such masks on that it's more like the complaint and coffee rather than deep connection. So my invitation for all of us, and I'm leading by example, is to take off the mask, take off the filter, take off the makeup, take off the glam, and even energetically the way that we do it. The way that we, only share the highs of our lives and put on a smile and, really sugarcoat everything we say to the point that there's like no truth left in it. And we're so afraid of being too loud, too bold, too emotional, too needy, too all of the things that we're just hiding and diluting ourselves and drowning in our own shallow waters. When really what we're all craving is depth. I know for myself, I desire depth in all of my relationships, in my friendships, in romantic partnership. I'm like, intimacy is my love language. Like, I want to know you. I want to know your dreams. I want to know your soul. I want to know that funny thing that you thought of when you were at the grocery store line and that situation that happened and what you were like in high school and, what you thought you were going to be when you grew up and what toys you played with. Like, I love that. And I want to be in relationships where people want to know that about me, because that's where the juice is. It's in the depth. But most of us, we never reach those depths because we're not showing our full selves. We're not showing who we really are. I'll speak about this in romantic relationship first, because that's where a lot of the messages were coming through for me, because I'm single. If you're showing yourself as this smiley, filtered, eyelash extension, perfect girl who's pretty and on and, suntans and just always has so much fun all the time. If you show yourself as just that, that's a side of you. But if you just show yourself only as that, then who you attract will be someone that's only interested in that. So then when the other sides of you start to come out, which they will, then all of a sudden this person will be like, well, I just signed up for, the hot tub Bahamas bikini version of you. That's what I saw on your Instagram. But this version of you that's, emotional, this version of you that's like, wants to do new moon rituals, this version of you that, is talking about my attachment style. I didn't sign up for this. You did not tell me this. You lied. This is not who you are. You've changed, actually. You've changed. So the person you're in a relationship with thinks you've changed is actually who you really were the whole time, but you hid those parts of yourself because you felt you needed to secure the relationship. So instead, let your full spectrum be shown. And, you know, one version of that is social media. If you are a social media user, we aren't all. But for me, it was really showing me like the content I put out, you know, the content and just the nature of Instagram and the app, which I'm definitely very critical of, because it does make us feel like everything needs to be curated because of the algorithm. So we put so much time and energy that for something to be on a feed, it basically needs to be like your fucking prom picture, you know, like it's got to be so thought out, posed. So then all we're doing is we're putting out prom pictures of ourselves. You know, we did not always look like how we looked at our prom, you know, that was prom. How'd you look in AP calculus? If you were in AP calculus, I mean, I don't think you're listening to this podcast. We're all really bad at math here. But how did you look in maybe AP sociology? How did you look at school lunch? How did you look, you know, early morning when you had to get into class by 7:40 a.m.? Lord knows why they make high schoolers do that. If I become president, it's the first thing I'm going to change after daylight savings. Like, how did you feel in those times? How did you look in those times? How did you show up in those times? Because those are who you're going to bring in a relationship. A relationship are not just highs and lows, and often we're just looking for that. You know, on social media, we see the guy surprising the girl on her birthday with the balloons and the cake and the chihuahua and all the things. And we're like, I don't have that. Why don't I have love? Or if I have love, why isn't he doing that? And it's never enough. But a relationship is the mundane and missed flights and awkward conversations, and you both organize the fridge in different ways, and you might have a little situation about that, and staying with your in-laws. And that's actually what a relationship is. Like 99% of it is that. 1% of it is you go to the Maldives maybe. But that's all we see on social media. So so not to blame you, not to blame me. It is the nature of this app. But do you see how it's creating this bias within our consciousness that only highs are worthy of being shared? So then it's the only thing we are sharing, and then it's the only thing we are then seeing. So then other people who meet us, who go on our Instagram, which even on dating apps, it's like the first thing people ask you for, are only seeing hi, filter, perfect. For some reason, now thinking that just must be you, because I guess we all forget that social media is a highlight reel. And then we then play that role of who we are on our social media of, oh, well, I am, you know, mindful Melissa. So I've always got to be white mala beads, my human design on fleek, like this and that. Like I'm always that. And then so, you know, Ascension Angelo came forth, and he's like, mindful Melissa, like, I love how deep you are in your wait for the invitation projector being. I'm just like that with my, you know, Vipassana meditation. And so now you're both going into it as your Instagram bios. And now you're both stuck in that role because you feel the other person only chose that role. So you got to remain that role, because then you'll be left. And then what happens if you're left? You'll be alone. We'll put a little pin on that. There's a lot to say there.